What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on these videos. It helps a lot. And you can always check out the other videos of the playlist, the lessons right up here, in case you're just catching on. So today we're going to go over alignment of your putter and your vision. And vision and alignment are directly related. To be able to roll the putt where we want to, we need to be able to see it. Last video we talked about reading greens and how to visualize a path that goes to the ball. And now we're going to talk about lining up and squaring up to that path on longer putts and shorter putts. So as you're putting and experimenting with these techniques, you're visualizing your line. I'm going to putt this putt here. It's about 12 feet. And it's a slight break to the right. I'm going to show you the visualized line that I see on this putt. I see the putt rolling something like this. So that's the path that I see. I'm going to pick an intermediary target. It's very helpful to use an intermediary target when we putt so that we can align to something close by that we can see, as opposed to lining to something up that's very far away. So we go back here, we read the line as I showed you in the last video, and I'm going to place a marker where you can see what my mark is. So I place this tee in the ground where I think the ball definitely has to go just on this side of the tee in order for it to go on the hole. I think if it hits the tee or if it goes to the right of the tee, it's definitely going to the right of the hole. So the ball needs to pass through here in order for it to go to the hole. So on the course, I would pick my intermediary target to be here on this line somewhere within about a yard of the ball. Now, I normally pick an intermediary target that is closer to me on shorter putts, usually about 3 feet away, but on longer putts I may pick an intermediary target that's a little further out. So once you pick this target and you come up and you put your putter down on the ground and you're ready to square up to that, it is helpful to put the putter down on the ground and square up to your line while you're standing up straight and looking at things the way you normally do, as opposed to trying to put the putter down like this, because then you can't see so well. When your head is up, we can see better. We're accustomed to seeing with our head straight. It's weird to turn your head at different angles and try to look at things. So getting straight up and then aligning this to the target that we want. It depends on where my eyes are as to how I can see the line. In other words, we've been told that we have to have our eyes directly on top of the ball, but that's not necessarily true. You need to have your eyes wherever it is that allows you to see the line that you want to put it in the hole on, where that line seems correct, where it seems like, oh yeah, that looks good. For instance, if this line is presumably a good line to hit the ball, and I line up there, for me, notice I have to move my head a bit to get it to where it looks good to me. For instance, if I have my eyes here, it doesn't look so good as when I have my eyes here. So I find that position where I know that it looks good to my eye, and once I find that position, then I set up keeping my distance there. So you hear my eyes are way behind the ball, they're not on top of the ball. If I were to be on top of the ball, to me it looks like, I don't know, it doesn't look like it's aimed properly. It's going to be difficult for me to putt having my eyes that close on the ball for this particular putt. On different putts, my eye position is going to change. Essentially, my eye position over the ball is going to change on every single putt because they're all different. My concern is not where my eyes are necessarily, but that I am able to see what I want to see, or what I need to see, or what I think is correct to see to send the ball. So here, this looks good to me. I have the putter flat on the ground, I've got my grip on it, and I'm moving back and forth until I can see well where it looks like it's going to send the ball to that target. Then I take my stance, adjust for speed, and then stroke. Another thing to consider as a part of your vision is, what are you looking at when you putt? Are you looking at the putter face? Are you looking at a spot on the ball? Are you looking at your visualized line, your target, your path? Having an understanding of where you focus your eye is important so that you can deliver the stroke that you want. Generally speaking, we go where we see. When you're driving in a car, if you want to turn left, you look left and that's where you go. So wherever we focus our eyes, that's where we are going to go. So it's helpful to be looking and focusing on not the ball, because we're trying to see things somewhat linearly with lines and maybe slight curves and then visualize the path that's going to take the ball. But essentially we visualize the line that the ball is going to take as being straight through the ball. It's helpful to understand it as being straight, and then we apply the curve to it after it takes off. But through the ball, we think of things as being perpendicular, the putter face being perpendicular to the line that we initially want it to send off on. And when you look at the ball, you're looking at something that's round, and it's straight nowhere because it's a sphere. So it's very disorienting when you go to put your putter down and you're trying to see something straight with a line, and then you look at a ball which is round. This will have an effect of throwing you off. I know many of you have had the experience. You read the line, you go up there, you square up at it, you look at the ball, and then you get lost. You lose your line because you've looked at the ball. Forget the ball. Line up your putter at the back of the ball, but really focus on the putter face so you can make sure that that is aligned with whatever intended target you want to putt it on. Once you have that aligned, then don't look at the ball anymore. You don't have to look at the ball, it's not moving. You want to find a point that is helpful for you to look at. For me, it happens to be somewhere close to the toe of my putter. I notice if I focus my attention there, my eyesight, my vision to the toe of my putter, I can make really good strokes. If I look at the ball or elsewhere, I don't tend to do so well. On shorter putts, sometimes I look at the intended spot I want to send the ball because I tend to push the ball in that direction or putt the ball in that direction. So it varies slightly, but on longer putts, I really tend to focus somewhere on the toe of my putter. For me, that's just the area where I can kind of see everything and make good strokes from that point. For you, it may be the heel of the putter. For you, it may be somewhere on the ground above the ball or below the ball. I don't know what it's going to be, but for me, it is looking a little bit at the toe of the putter on the back. I can make good strokes like that. And then the other place that I look is in my strokes. Sometimes I tend to look up here a little bit forward in the line. I can just focus there and see everything through my periphery, but that's my focal point. I would recommend taking some strokes until you make some good strokes and see what your focal point is. Where does it tend to stroke well, so that where can you look so that you can stroke it fairly consistently? Find your focal point and it'll help your putting. In other words, you don't necessarily have to look at the ball. If looking at the ball doesn't work for you, find something else. Find a spot on your putter, find a spot on the ground, the intended target line. Find what works best for you, but you have options. And understanding what your focal point will be will help you get more consistency out of your putting. As you're reading the green and you're deciding on the line, the intended target, the path that you want to use, understand that there are multiple paths that the ball can take to get into the hole from any given point. There's not just one way to put it in there. On any putt, you can putt it slower with more break so that it dies in the hole, or you can putt it faster with less break. This is typically the cases. We can putt it faster with less break, or we can putt it slower with more break. We have to decide. So the path that you intend to use is going to be directly related to the speed of the putt. And just as I told you, if you putt it faster, you want to use less break. If you want to putt it slower, you'll have to use more break. All of this has to be part of your decision-making process while you're behind reading the green, reading the putt, understanding how it's going to turn. You have to decide how fast you want the putt to go. If I'm putting downhill, I'm already thinking I'm going to have to putt this relatively slow, so I'm going to have to play more break than I think. If I'm going to putt it uphill and I'm going to hit it harder, it's going to travel faster, so I can play less break than I think. Another thing to take into consideration as you're putting is the difference between long putts and short putts. And we'll consider short putts as being makeable putts. 15 feet or less, these are somewhat makeable. 10 feet or less, definitely makeable. But 15 feet or so, these are putts that normally you're going to try to put in the hole. And then I'm not saying that you're going to make the majority of your 15 footers, that's just not the case, but at that distance, typically we're not thinking that we're trying to lag the putt in. At over 15 feet, depending on the terrain, we may be trying to lag the putt so that we can ensure a 2-putt. We definitely don't want 3 putts on a hole. We want to try to keep our putts 2 or less. So we divide our putts into makeable putts or unmakeable lag putts. So are we lagging or are we trying to make it? Now this will vary on the conditions, but typically it's a distance thing. If they're short enough, we're trying to make them. It is possible to have a very short putt though that you have to lag because the slope is so severe that you have to ensure that you make the next one, and it may be so fast downhill that you just have to touch it and hope that it rocks into the hole. But most of the time the putts are flat enough where we can actually try to make them. So your strategy for these putts are different as far as your read is concerned. If I have a putt that I'm trying to make, then I want to err on the high side of the hole. For instance, this particular putt, let's say I have a putt from here, and this is to about 9 feet, 8 feet or so, and this putt is going to break this way. So when I read this putt, it's better for me to miss on the high side than the low side. And this is because on a putt that I'm trying to make, if I started out too low, the chances of it coming up the hill are extremely low, maybe close to 0. It's not likely that it's going to break up the hill. It would have to hit something and deviate that way, which is not likely. However, if I hit it too high, there is a chance that it'll hit something and go down the hill. So it may fall in the hole on the high side. So on short putts, you want to err on the high side of the hole. They call this the high side of the hole because it's breaking this way, and this is the low side. Or you can consider what they call the low side and the pro side. On makeable putts, you want to err on the high side because it's not likely that I'm going to miss this putt so badly that I have to actually try to make another putt. From 8 feet, I'm thinking I'm going to leave the ball within a foot radius of the circle so I can just walk up here and tap it in. So I'm not that concerned about 3-putting from 8 feet. So if I do miss this putt, I want to err on the high side so that it has a chance to fall into the hole. As opposed, if I put it on the low side, it's never going to come up the hill. I'm not going to say never. They say only the Sith speaks in absolutes. It's not going to be very likely that it will come up the hole. It'll have a much better chance of falling from the high side. Now, when putting longer putts, a lag putt, the opposite is true. If I were putting this same putt, and let's say now I'm putting from, I don't know, 25 feet or 30 feet or more. This is not a putt that I'm necessarily trying to make. I want to ensure that I 2-putt from this distance. And if the putt is the same putt and is breaking to the right, in this case, especially if the slope is severe, I do not want to leave the putt above the hole. It is much easier to make putts uphill because the cup is leaned towards you. If you're putting downhill, the putt is away from you, so it's much harder to make downhill putts than it is uphill putts. So we want to leave our second putt uphill, preferably. So when I play a long putt, I don't want to overread this putt. I tend to underread my longer putts so that when I miss the putt, or if I miss the putt, that the putt will be on the low side of the hole. Well, that one just went in with one hand, go figure. But if I miss this on the low side, then this putt that I have left now is going to be up the hill. And this will be a much easier putt to make from this side of the hole than, say, this side of the hole where now I'm putting downhill. As a general rule of thumb in golf, we want to always stay below the hole. We want to be on the low side of the hole, going up to the hole. Rarely do we want to be coming down to the hole. So keep this in mind as you putt. Short putts, err on the high side. Long putts, unmakeable lag putts, err on the low side so that your next putt will be uphill. I see this error a lot, especially when people are putting downhill. Say you have a 30-foot downhill putt. and you think, man, it's going to be really fast, it's downhill, I need to just touch it to get it going, to lag it up there. And what happens is normally they hit it way too soft and they leave themselves with a 10 or an 8 or a 6-foot putt down the hill again. So now you've left yourself with 2 downhill putts. It would be better to leave yourself the 6 or 8, 10 feet on the other side of the hole, putting back uphill. So consider these things when you are putting and lagging and or making short putts. Short putts, makeable putts, are on the high side. Long putts, lag putts, are on the low side. So I'm going to putt this one ball here with my entire process so you can see. I'm going to read the break from both sides, get a good idea of how I think the ball is going to roll. An idea of the length. We'll walk it off as we go back. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yards or so, so about 15 feet. I'm going to come and take my final look from behind the ball. And I think to make this putt, I think I need to send it off right here. This is my target. I think that's going to be pretty close to putting it into the hole. This is a makeable putt, so remember I want to consider this missing a little bit on the high side. I don't want to miss it on the low side. I want to give it a chance, and I line up, choose my path. So I'm visualizing the path as I'm walking up to the ball. I'm visualizing my path from the hole back to the ball, and I'm looking at the path, and as I walk up to the ball, I'm tracking the path down this way so that when I get to the ball, I meet the ball and the path intersects with me. So I follow back the last bit of it at the end as I'm walking to the ball. So I start from the hole, walk back, and I see this path, and that way when I come up here to the ball, I run my path back in here and square up my putter face with my intended path. Once I have the intended path set up, I take my stance and I try to stroke the ball as quickly as possible after that. I don't try to delay. I don't give myself an opportunity to doubt. The longer you stand up there, the more you're going to doubt yourself, and the less likely you'll be able to hit a good stroke. An old friend of mine told me once, think long, think wrong. I had stood over a putt for, 30 seconds or so and looked and looked and looked and looked and then flubbed it. It was just terrible. I was a teenager at the time, and I realized very quickly that you can't spend too much time on it. So he told me, think long, think wrong. And he was right. So when I line up to this putt, I'm having to go back and do it again because I was talking too much and I lost my focus already. And this time I'm going to step up to it and go ahead and stroke it and see how we do. Ringer. All right. Good read, good execution, putt goes in. Thanks again for watching. Check out 2 of my other videos here. Be sure to subscribe here, and we're going to pick it up next time with practice routines so you can practice all of this and become a really good putter. Until next time.